I want to go over how to hold the mitts, okay? Now, before we do that, let me get into some concepts here. And I talk about this a lot. It's probably a test. I repeat a lot of things in my classes. And it's just, it's too important for me not to say, okay, let me just take it for granted, right? So one of the things that I talk about a lot is working with your partners, particularly if you're the pad holder. For beginners especially, the tendency is for them to feel like, okay, well, I'm just a human version of one of these. I'm just a human punching bag, and I'm just going to take the punishment, and then I'm just going to wait until it's my turn to give that person some punishment or some learning or that type of thing. So I call that just level 1 kind of passive, right? Which I don't want anyone to be. Even if it's their first day on the mat with me, I don't even want them to be there at all. I want them at least to get to the level 2, which I call active, which is if I'm holding the pads, I'm actually looking here, and I want to help this person that I'm with, okay? I want to call out shots. I want to hold properly for them, and I want to make sure that I'm engaged mentally, right? And even with my footwork and that type of thing, right? So I'm active there. I'm active for this person so they can get a better workout. The third level is ultimately where I want everybody to go, and I try to stay at that level all the time for myself, and that is what I call dynamic, which is not only am I here for him, right, to make sure that I train properly, I'm holding properly, holding out here, making sure that he's engaged, bam, bam, that type of thing, but I want to be here for me as well. I want to be sure that I get something out of this. So it's not so much that I'm here to train him. It's like, well, let's both get something out of this here. Now, it's going to be a little different, just depending on the focus of the drill that you're doing. Or, okay, for this particular round, we want to work on this thing or whatever. But through the confines of the drill itself, you want to be sure that if you're holding the pads that you're still active. You're thinking, you're like, okay, if he moves this way, how would I really react to that? If he throws this punch here, how would I react, right? Or here, oh, I want to get out of the way as well. Now, if I'm doing this where I'm moving just like as much as he's moving, not only am I getting something out of it, but is he getting something out of it as well? Absolutely, right? Because he wants to know, man, if I'm really going to be engaging with somebody, this is how they're going to be moving as well, okay? So now, even though I'm holding for him, 1, 2, 2, then I'm not only active, and it's not only dynamic in that I'm moving around, right? But I'm also seeing, if he's throwing that punch, 1, 2, I can see how his body is moving as well. So subconsciously, I'm getting in that, hey, oh, okay, if he was just going to throw that shot, this is what it's going to look like biomechanically, kind of in general across all training partners, because we all pretty much have the same, hopefully, unless you're training with aliens or something, but like the same body structure. But then as him as a person, as a fighter, as someone that I'm training with, these are his nuances, right? I see maybe his hand goes down a little bit, or I see that his head moves this way for, when he's throwing that cross or that hook or whatever it might be, right? So I'm really engaged here. So even as I'm moving around, and I'm just going to call out single shots right now. 1, 2, 1, 2. I can see, like in the peripheral vision here, how he's moving, defense. So I can see like where there are openings and that type of thing as well, right? So again, the 3 levels of pad holding and engagement. It doesn't matter if I'm holding these pads or some of the other pads that we'll get into later on. It's more about a mindset that I'm talking about, all right? So there is passive, do not be that dude, right? It's not good for either of you, quite frankly, right? You just kind of zone out, and I see this a lot where people just out like this, and then it's like, okay, waiting. There's no resistance at all. He's not having a good time. Absolutely, I'm seeing the person here. They're just waiting their turn. Okay, bell goes off, now it's my turn, and then they're going to go to town, right? That is not the place you want to be. You want to be at least active. You want to make sure that you are serving the person you're with, but then ultimately you want to get to a point, because ultimately we're getting to sparring, right? You get to sparring, which we're not covering in this fundamentals course, but that's the next level of this, is that, hey, we lose this, we both get the gloves on, and now we're actually throwing and defending against each other, right? And then ultimately, if you're going to get into competition or, heaven forbid, self-defense type of stuff, where you really got to be thinking, right? There's nothing that it could be in hypnosis mode, where you just check out mentally. Okay, so that is using these mitts here.